Anthropic and OpenAI have both made some stunning revenue projections for their business. But a new story we published today takes a deeper look at how their margin structures could compare over the coming 3 years and why Anthropic could, in some ways, be more efficient. Joining me now is Sri Muppidi, who wrote the story. Sri, welcome to the show. It's great to have you.
Excited to be here.
So let's talk about Anthropic and OpenAI. We have done a lot of great reporting. You have done a lot of great reporting, I should say, on the company's revenue projections. And you had a new story today out that talks a little bit about their margin structure, about their compute processing. Tell us a little bit of what you found.
Of course. So last week we wrote a story about Anthropic raising its revenue projections to be higher than before. So some of the findings that we found was that Anthropic projected to have 70 billion in revenue and 17 billion in cash in 2028 in its most optimistic projections. But that same year, OpenAI expects to generate about 100 billion. Anthropic also expects to be cash flow positive as soon as 2027 and generate about 3 billion in cash. Comparing it to OpenAI, OpenAI actually has 35 billion in cash burn in 2027 and won't be cash flow positive till 2030. As for efficiency, which was about today's story, we find that Anthropic's compute costs are actually much lower than OpenAI. For instance, this year, Anthropic expects to spend about 6 billion across compute for training and running its AI models, versus OpenAI expects to spend about 15 billion. And then by 2028, Anthropic expects to spend 27 billion versus OpenAI's 111 billion, which also includes about 40 billion in backup servers that OpenAI has reserved for any unexpected breakthroughs or viral product hits.
And do we have a sense as to why their strategies are differing so much?
Yeah, I think part of the reason could be the different types of customers that both companies serve. So, for example, Anthropic serves roughly 80% of its, or makes about 80% of its revenue from selling its API or AI models through an API to its business customers, versus OpenAI generates a vast majority of its revenue from ChatGPT, many of which users are actually free users. The second piece could also be just the fact that OpenAI or Anthropic, for example, has a different type of chips that they use. For example, they use NVIDIA, Amazon, and Google chips, versus OpenAI primarily uses NVIDIA chips. And because Anthropic leaders also say that they match those chips to specific tasks, that could also be helping towards driving down compute costs as compared to OpenAI. And the last piece I'll just add is that, as I mentioned, to the types of customers that OpenAI and Anthropic respectively serve, OpenAI's R&D costs are across many different types of bets. For example, we had recently reported about an AI music model that OpenAI might be working on. And so I think that really points to the diversity in types of products and research that OpenAI is working on as compared to Anthropic.
And at a more fundamental level, one of the things that we've talked about on this show is OpenAI's broad strategy here with a number of different products, whether it's the browsers, the agents, the social media side of things with the generative video features. I mean, OpenAI really is going for what seems like world domination in some senses. Anthropic's mission seems to be a little bit more focused. And so I wonder, this strategy that you've sort of helped us unearth with respect to financials, is this reflective of Anthropic just saying, hey, we want to be a little bit more narrow with our focus? Or is it OpenAI saying we want to do everything? Help us understand sort of which side of that is more dominant here.
I think we see that with the types of products that both companies have released, and also just where a lot of the revenue seems to be coming. As I mentioned, Anthropic generates 80% of its revenue from business customers through its API, versus OpenAI has a vast majority of it coming from ChatGPT. Other areas that OpenAI has also said that it could generate revenue from is like new products or free user monetization, which we've learned to potentially be advertising or affiliate fees. So there is a diversity in the way that OpenAI expects to generate money, but also the types of research that we're seeing OpenAI work on, as I mentioned, around like music and browser technology and things like that.
How often do projections like these end up changing?
I would say that companies probably are doing quarterly projections, but these projections that we had reported on are from over the summer. And so
Right.
even just in the last couple of months, it's likely that OpenAI and Anthropic's compute spending has gone up. I know, for example, Anthropic has a number of unsigned deals that haven't been announced yet. And OpenAI, as we know, has signed 1.4 trillion in deals just to boost its compute access. And so these projections have likely gone up, and compute spending is probably higher than what we even reported on.
But even still, this seems to bode pretty well for Anthropic's fundraising efforts, should they sort of be marching towards that.
Yeah, last week we had reported that if Anthropic were to raise, just given that they had increased their revenue projections from the last fundraise process earlier this year, Anthropic could raise at a valuation of between 300 and 400 billion, and that's a step up from its last valuation. So I think that these projections are really helpful for investors to know what's up with both companies and decide if they want to invest at the time.
Great. Well, Shri, I want to thank you for coming on. It's a fast moving story, and we'll have you on again when you've got more to share with us.